We're here, we're excited. You can find a seat. I hope that you all signed in and grabbed your green folder because you are going to need that for today. And hopefully you all checked your email and saw Tom's message, so he's planning to be here Monday. Hopefully he's not going to be pushing himself, but we'll see. So if you want to find your seats, make sure you've got your folders. Those of you who are just walking in. It is my great pleasure to introduce to you our speaker today. His name is Jon Wortmann. He is an executive and mental coach, a graduate of Carleton College and Harvard. He has written books that teach essential communication, leadership, and stress reduction skills. I don't know, do we have any stress?
No!
No stress. He coaches on the PGA Tour and assists the golf team at UConn. And he teaches philosophy and ethics at the Institute for Rowing Leadership. He lives outside Boston, so this is like his backyard, kind of.
Okay.
Please join me in welcoming Jon Wortmann.
Good morning, everybody. You gotta do better. Because I know you just got into your classrooms yesterday, and I know that's where we're going. And as you look at the schedule for today, you may be saying 3 hours. What in the world can we possibly do for 3 hours? This is a retreat in which we'll take a break every 50 minutes, which is all based on brain science, where I'm going to get you ready for the year. And I'm going to teach you about the long loop in your brain, the way in which you stay focused, the way in which you recover from bad days, the way in which you become the kind of person who, as you deal with 17 roles that you now play as a teacher, because it used to be, as an educator, you just were responsible for learning. What else do you have to worry about now? Everything, right? That's the correct answer, because you're also counselors, and you're also social workers, and you're also administrators, and even in a well-heeled district like this, you still end up doing supply runs. And as you play all of these roles, is there any stress in the job? And by the way, are there any changes going on in this district? No. So my job over the next year, you're going to see me a handful of times, is to help you guys get ready for this. And so the skills that we're going to work on today are getting you ready for that first day of school. You and your brain, and then the people you're going to take care of. 2 stories to get ready. The first is about my first day of school. As you hear this, I want you to imagine your first day of school, because you're going to do a lot of partner work. By the way, if you don't like the person you're sitting next to, move now. Seriously. Because this is an interactive workshop. In your green folders, you have a workbook and a pen. Please do pull those out. And you're going to be taking notes, because the things I'm going to teach you are going to work differently for each of you. There are going to be different parts that are meaningful to each of you. But all of these different skills I'm going to teach will apply to you, and they're the kind of things you can use with your kids when they have the kind of day I did when I left for kindergarten. Sat in front of my house, excited, super excited. Show of hands, how many of you are excited for the first day of school? Most of you. And that's pretty good. You'll get there, though, because you're going to find that one kid who just can't wait to be in your classroom, and you're going to remember, why do we do this? And as I was about to get on the bus, of course, my mom was sitting with me, and I was that dutiful little goody-goody two-shoes that didn't change until I was about 18. We won't talk about my college experience. And as I was sitting there waiting, nothing was more fun in the world than going off to school. I was that kid. And then as I got on the bus, I went to sit next to the one other guy on the bus. He, of course, was on the aisle seat, but I was going to move and sit right next to him because this was my first friend. Do you remember your first friend from school? So think about the excitement I felt, and think about the doubly excited moment of making a first friend. And I went to sort of push past him to sit next to him. And he said, "You can't sit here." Can you feel that? What it's like to be the little kid who wants just to be included and just to learn. And the very first interaction that they have, the very first moment that they have, is to be told that they're not welcome. I am standing here today with you because over and over again in my life, I've had experiences that have broken my brain and not let me be the person that I wanted to be. And so I've done all the research on how you actually change this from a neuropsych perspective from a neuroscience perspective, from a functional psychology perspective. My wife is the PhD clinical psychologist in the family, but I've translated all this so that we can use it as professionals, and we can then be better professionals in our daily lives. Second story, I get to kindergarten eventually, I meet Mrs. Ruskin, my teacher. I can still remember with the puffy red hair and the big glasses. It was the 1980s. And I fancied myself an artist. My dad's a pastel artist. I really thought I was great. And I loved squiggles. And so when it was time to color, of course, you know, I picked red, my favorite color. Is there any better color in the world when you're 5? And I took that clown and I made him Andy Warhol red. I covered him with squiggles. And of course, Mrs. Ruskin saw that picture, picked it up in front of the entire class. We're talking about the first day of school, ladies and gentlemen. And she said, boys and girls, this is not how you color. So within my first day of school, I was rejected by my first friend. By the way, we ended up in youth group together and became best friends in high school. And then Mrs. Ruskin, who eventually was someone I loved, told me I wasn't good enough because I couldn't color inside the lines. As I tell you these sad stories, where'd your stress level go? How many stress level went up? Every single kid, every single parent, every single administrator, every single teacher, when we get into these first moments, these moments where we have to get ready for something that matters, your stress levels are up whether you like it or not. Because we're excited, because we care. We can immediately make it worse by the way we behave, or we can be the kind of leaders, the kind of people who build trust deeply. So here's your first exercise to prime. Talk about your first day of school that you remember. I know that's going back a little bit, but like, talk about the first day of school that you're, it could be in high school, it could be 5 years old if it was that difficult or wonderful an experience. It could be a good experience, it could be a bad experience. But turn to your partner right now. If you're not near someone, you get to cut a little bit. Like, not in an inappropriate way. I'll bring that training if necessary. So please, tell your story of your first day of school that you remember. Go. So shout out the words. If you were going to tell the story of your first day of school in one word, or just a simple phrase, shout out the words. Scary. Excited. Trauma. See, we basically just covered the first day of school. Give me another one back there. Overwhelming. Any other positive ones? Fun. Positive. Show of hands, how many of you have great memories of the first day of school? Show of hands. About a quarter, maybe a third of this audience. How many of you have traumatic? I heard the word trauma. How many have traumatic or negative memories? How many are in between? So we're about third. I would argue that that's what you're dealing with in every classroom, except that every parent you run into is stressed. Because they're worried about you. Is this going to be the right teacher? Is this teacher going to help my kid? By the way, I'm letting my kid out in an era where we know that there's school danger that we haven't had before. And oh, by the way, everything's changing in the district. And will my kid actually be successful? And I don't want you to forget right now in this moment that there's a tiny little region in the parents and the kids in your brain, technically called the amygdala. Today we're going to talk about it as the alarm in your brain, that is sending those signals of both excitement as well as anxiety to get them ready. To make sure in this moment that you are ready to actually be the teachers and the leaders and the thinkers that they need to become the next generation of talent in our universe. And so to actually help them best on this first day of school, you have to know where your alarm is, the level of stress, the level of your body preparing you to get ready to fight, flight, flee, or freeze in the moment. So where is your stress level? Open your green folders and pull out your worksheet right now. And you've got to actually do this all on paper today. Because if you don't take notes, if you don't answer these questions, it's not going to stick. It's not just because we're adult learners. It's because you have to actually measure your stress level to understand where it is. Because all of you are in different places, just like everyone coming into your classroom is in a different place. Everyone walking in your school has different brains. And we're going to teach you how to handle that today in a way you didn't know. You were already doing well intuitively. You can do even more intentionally. So write down on your paper, write, where is your stress level right now? 10 is you just got in a catastrophic accident. 10 is you just got rear-ended on the way here. Hopefully that didn't happen and you want to re-traumatize you. 10 is you just got punched in the jaw. 10 is you just got really bad news. 9, 8, 7, you have some sort of nervous thing going on, unintentionally, you've been triggered by something this morning. 6, 5, 4, you're a little overexcited, something outside this room is bothering you. Maybe you're a little anxious about something you forgot at home, or you just remembered something that you have to do. 3, 2, you're in a place of just listening. Coffee hasn't kicked in yet. 1 is you just woke up from a good nap. Show of hands, how many of you went on vacation of some kind for at least a day this summer? That good moment on the beach next to the lake, on the porch, with the adult beverage. Right? That's the 1. So write down where your stress level is right now. Give it a number. And we're about to do a handful of exercises. We're going to see your stress level go up and down. Show of hands, how many of you are at a 10? Because if you were at a 10 right now, I'd call the ambulance. Because is there anything scary in this room right now? Don't look at your principals. Right? There's not. Are there any bears in this room right now? Lions. So when I give this talk at Mount Washington, there are really bears there. And they have signs in the lobby that say, bears could come into the hotel. What, the fire truck? And then I was there with the superintendents of New Hampshire just this spring, and a bear comes out of the woods going for one of its great feed troughs, the dumpster at Mount Washington. And you know what a couple of the superintendents did? The bears over there. These are the folks leading the future of education in New Hampshire, and their brains were so out of whack, could have been the adult beverages, that they really thought it was a good idea to run towards a bear. Now, you biologically have all been trained to manage stress. You are the winners of Darwin's War. You are supposed to be here because you have the right DNA to go forward, and your brain in every moment is just trying to keep you safe. And its first way of doing that is alarm function. Who's at a 9? 8? Why are you at an 8? If it's too personal, don't tell us, but if it's at all related to school, let us know. Family issues. Should he be at an 8 right now in this room with those family issues? Right now, in this moment? Depends. Because if it's that kind of big thing, it's going to keep reverberating in your mind, you're not crazy. But right now, as we're having a little chat about it, should you be at an 8? Right here with me right now, as I'm saying, you can stay in this room for these couple hours, you're on retreat. Is it going down at all? You know why it's not going down? Because I'm asking about it. And I'm putting him on, what's your name? Eric. I'm putting Eric on the spot in front of 300 people. Right? So it either would be like, wait a second, he got to talk about it, he got to name it, he got to notice it, might turn the alarm down, but it also could make it worse. So go up or down. It's going like this. Because when you have real stuff going on, your alarm is going to keep sending you signals over and over again. You know what your alarm is like? A toddler. What does a toddler do when it wants M&Ms? Gimme, 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 mine, 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 I want it, I want it, I want it. When you see that in the grocery store, you laugh because your children are older. But if you have 2-year-olds right now, by the way, I just triggered you. Your stress level just went up. And for those of you who are teaching the little ones, you went, they do that when they're 17. And the reality is, it's not because we're bad people, it's because the alarm in our brain does this to us. It gets us to pay attention to things. Does it come down at all? A little bit, because what happens with stress is it cascades. And the fact that Eric named, you know, there's some stuff going on. It's one of the first techniques in actual stress management, is to name that you're feeling stressed. When you measure your stress level, actually just pay attention to it. Studies of our alarms in fMRIs, functional magnetic, say it for me, magnetic Yeah, that. I stutter. I apologize. By the way, I stand up here doing these workshops with people. I had a stuttering problem until I was 14. As I say that, does your stress go up or down? Up, because you're like, oh my God, he's going to stutter with this thing. This guy's going to be terrible. Your brain, however, can learn to change how it handles stress levels. Stress cascades once you actually recognize it. Who's at a 7? How come? My first year of teaching. Round of applause, please, for some of the great. As I just called attention to you, what's your name? Emily. Did your stress level go up? Oh, yeah. Hey, Emily, come up here. You're teachers. You don't get off the hook. This is professional development, right? It's Emily's first year. We're about to train Emily in this moment. Come on up on stage. On stage. No, you gotta do it. You gotta do it. You gotta do it. Because are they safe? I don't know. Right now, her brain. She is an 10. Okay, you can stay on the edge of the stage out of the lights for now. For now. Just for a moment. Look at them. Look at them. Are there any bears out there? No, there's no bears. So are they scary people or are they friendly people? I don't know. By the way, this is not planned. These moments happen in this improvisational stage show and workshop where people get a chance to change, but most importantly, all of us get to remember what you're about to teach tomorrow. Kiddos who feel exactly like this. How do you think I felt getting up on stage in front of you today? Millions, not quite, over 3,000, but you know what? I almost puke every time I get up on stage. I know, right? Why do you keep doing it? You're an idiot. But the reason I do it, the same reason you'll do what you're doing right now and get more and more comfortable, all you're doing is get comfortable. We're just training the brain. I'll explain why in a second. Can you look at them? Take it in. Just take, now, okay, now, have you heard of the power pose? Like, it's all fake science. It's not really true. Doing this doesn't make you stronger. It does make you look like a superhero, but it also makes you look a little ridiculous. But it turns out that lobsters, when they stand up straight and they face the enemy, someone who they're after territory with, the ones that win are the ones who can actually stand and look like they're good. So stand comfortably and confident right now. Just look, stand up. Right? We're almost there. So you can use this to hold on to, right? And you can, but what you're doing these exercises is because every kid in your classroom is walking in feeling like this. And we have to remember that all of us get horrified and nervous all the time. And if we can stand there long enough, notice how the posture's starting to change a little bit? You're experimenting. You have to experiment with stress management to get more comfortable. Why are you a teacher? Without hesitation, it's because it's my passion in life and I want to make a difference. Do you feel a little more comfortable as you say that? Go sit down. Round of applause. Were you at a 10 when you were up on stage, Emily? No, it was leaving, right? So the stress doesn't immediately go away, it cascades, but as she sits there, she may fall asleep. She may literally take a nap because as the stress cascades, and I want you to never forget the fact that you can do that, and you can do this over and over again, even with a stutter, even when you're stressed. And every kid in your classroom needs you to recognize that when they show up in those big moments, they're at a 7, 8, 9, or 10. When you call on the ones that are quiet, Emily, thank you so much for being brave, though you may not be quiet. I think there would be some chatting going on if it was a longer conversation, right? Right, pretty loud, I want you to know me. The kids who are loud at first, they're just nervous and they don't know what to do. The kids who are quiet at first, they're just nervous and they don't know what to do. And what you're trying to do is create an environment based on you being the one who, even when you're nervous, presents comfort that allows them each day turn their alarm to a place where they're in control. Who's at a 6? Show of hands. No one's going to put their hand up anymore. Who's at a 5? 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. In the purple shirt. I've heard about you already. What's your name?
Sorry?
What's your name?
Kevin.
Kevin. So I'm not going to make you come up here, Kevin. Kevin's the guy who at the end of school goes, 67 more days till we're back. They're like, how did he know this already? Because there's two kinds of teachers. They're the teachers June, and they're the teachers who look forward to September. And they said, we got this guy, Kevin, he's got the countdown at the end of school. But Kevin, at the end of the school year, are you tired? No.
No, sorry.
You don't drink, do you? There are some of us with a mass of energy in us, like crazy amounts of energy, and it lives in us. Emily's got that energy, Kevin's got that energy. Not all of you have it though. I happen to have it, and the twist is the alarm in your brain, for some of you, shuts down your energy. Because there are 4 different responses: fight, flight, freeze, or flop when you get on the short loop. Go back to your workbooks. The short loop is when the alarm in your brain is tied to your memory center. Write down alarm and memory center. When the alarm and your memory center are connected and you cannot get to your frontal lobes, you can't get to your thinking center. And what happens is all the bad memories that you've ever had when you're on the short loop, when your stress level's at 5, 6, 7, and you're not paying attention, suddenly it's at a 7, 8, 9, and you're not paying attention. You can be in front of the class and suddenly you have the feeling like when your mom, when you were 6 years old, because you stole the extra cookie, yelled, "Jonathan Thomas Wortmann!" Did your stress level just go up? Because your stress level is always paying attention. Your alarm is always paying attention to get you ready for things. And it's got all those memories, anything you ever thought, felt, said, experienced emotionally, it's all there for the alarm to pull in the most inopportune time. How many of you are golfers? So when you're on the first tee and you get nervous, that's the alarm. How many of you are musicians? Before you go on stage, that's the alarm. How many of you have to public speak? Every single one of you, when you teach, you are public speaking. And when you get the butterflies in your stomach, the signs of stress when you're on the short loop are stomach butterflies, slight clamminess to the palms, maybe a bit on the brow or the upper lip. Your face starts to turn red. You start to feel your heartbeat faster. You start to get into this tense position. What do I look like right now? Football player. Your body goes into the all-sport position. This is also the perfect posture for golf. It's also baseball. It's also volleyball, ready to hit the ball. It's also when I'm about to sprint. The all-sport position is really your body ready to react to a bear. Any bears in here? Go back up one in the workbook and write down where your stress level is now. So you had an initial number. Write down where it is now. What I'm doing is teaching you to benchmark, to actually measure your stress and then see it go up and down throughout the day. Because there are different parts of your life that stress you out, and there are other parts where you're totally comfortable. And you got to be able to figure out the difference, because in your life you're not going to stop having triggers, things that cause you internally or externally to melt. But the fun part is you can always go to the places where you're safe. Who's heard of WUSA? Serenity Now, right? All of these goofy things. It's actually based on a true imagination memory file exercise where you go to the place you're most comfortable. So I want you to think right now of the place this summer, or in your life, the place where you love to go on vacation. Now be careful, if you pick a place that has nostalgic memories, and in my case it's the porch at the Cape with my gram, who happened to pass away, it can sometimes cause a different reaction. What I'm after is a place that you love to go to. Everybody got a place? Describe it to your partner right now. 20 seconds each. Where is your place? Describe that place for vacation. Okay, come on back. Now get comfortable in your chairs, in your seats. And I want you to close your eyes and I want you to come with me, we're going to take a little 2-minute vacation, to your place. You're going to your favorite vacation place, and I'm just going to have something cool happen. So take 2 deep breaths with your eyes closed. And imagine you're sitting in that favorite vacation place. Feel the chair underneath you. Notice the texture of the armrest or the side. Look out in the distance. Savor the view. Look up in the sky. What do you see? You then turn. Someone you love is coming, bringing you your favorite beverage. Oh, it can be adult. Take the beverage from them. Feel the glass or container. And take a sip. Enjoy the taste. Look out at the view. Feel how comfortable you are in this chair. In this place. Take 2 deep breaths. Come on back. Where's your stress level right now? Who's at a 1? Who's at a 2? Who's at a 3? We got almost the whole group to literally drop their stress levels in 2 minutes, because this is the way the alarm in your brain works. It is always looking for danger, and when it has something else to pay attention to, and it knows it's safe, the stress level comes down. Now, is it Kevin again?
Yes, sir.
Said he was a 1. So there's only 2 people who are 1s. Buddha and people who are lying.
Now it's 3.
Now it's a 3, right? So it may have been a 1 because people have, get this, people have different size amygdala. So some people have small alarms. And in this case, size really matters, because if you have a small alarm, oh dear. If you have a small alarm, it means you don't react to stress the way other people do. In your classroom, you're going to have kids that when you try and discipline them, they don't react. It's not just because they're hyperactive. It's because their alarms don't see trouble, either because of the size or because of the way they've been taught at home, to not be worried about getting in trouble. Either they don't think there's a risk, or they've been taught there isn't a risk, or they just don't have role models about boundaries. Their alarms aren't paying attention. Have you seen the movie Free Solo? It's about a guy named Alex Honnold who climbed El Capitan. It would be the equivalent of me climbing up this wall, literally this wall, times 30 with no ropes. Anybody interested? Did your alarm go up? So he, it turns out, has an alarm in his brain. The twist is when they gave him images of gruesome car accidents, it didn't fire. Because he might be a little bit on the spectrum, they said. It's not negative, this is who he is. And he raised himself to be able to climb and do the most difficult things. He trains every day better than any athlete in the world. He keeps notes of everything he does every day so he can get stronger and smarter and better. So he can do things that other people would think are impossible. Did you know that blind people can ride bikes? Would you try, with your eyes closed, to ride a bike? It's because you haven't yet learned to use your ears like Sony. But it's possible to click and actually hear the bounce of the sound off what's in front of you, and without sight, raise your ear's ability to hear. Now, your alarm would stop you from doing that, climbing the wall or riding your bike. But your kiddos, some of them, their alarms aren't working. Do you remember, if you've had toddlers, or maybe yourself, when you wanted a cookie when you were 3, and you'd do anything? You would go into the kitchen and you pull a chair over and you climb on the chair and you climb on the counter, and then you would open the cabinet door, and just like Alex Honnold, Free Soloing, you'd jump up and you'd grab on the top of the cabinet, and you would then grab the cookies and you'd drop them down, and you'd come over and you would eat the cookies, and you'd be so satisfied because mom didn't get you. And then you'd walk out of the room and you'd see a black cat and you'd scream! Because your alarm knew to be afraid of the black cat. It didn't yet know, because it hadn't developed enough, and your frontal lobes weren't working, to be afraid of impending death climbing up the cabinet for cookies. So Kevin, where's your stress level right now?
1.
Still at a 1.
Yes, sir. sir.
He has a small alarm. Mine happens to be huge. You know how we know that Emily's is big? I have a huge alarm. But Emily's is big too because she had a stress reaction when you came up here. If I had some of the rest of you up here and said, hey, come and tell us why you're a leader, why you're a teacher, your response would be, let me tell you. No fear. It's not because you're better than Emily or me. Kevin's not better because his alarm is smaller. Alex is not better because it's smaller. It's just trained. And the first way you train your alarm to be ready for stress is you've got to measure it. Go back to that first question again. Where is your alarm right now? Give it a number. It may be up, it may be down. You may be just learning for the first time in your life. That's why I was challenging Kevin. Are you really at a 1? It's like, nope, just went up. He's noticing. Okay, he said he was back to 1. I believe you if you're really paying attention, because everybody's alarm spectrum varies. Some kiddos have very low levels of spiking. Alex Hanold, when he made his first attempt at El Capitan without ropes, he didn't do it. The reason he didn't do it is because he also had a long loop. His alarm isn't as active as yours or mine, and it's trained, it's inculcated, but he also is not stupid. He knew that day that there was risk, so he didn't climb. Go back to your workbooks. The long loop is your alarm connected to your memory center, your hippocampus, connected to your thinking center, your frontal lobes. Here's why this is so important. When you get kids thinking, you are loaning them your learning brain. You are loaning the part of you that thinks, just like I do when I took you on that guided meditation. And the twist is, if they get stuck on the short loop because their life isn't good, because they're hungry, angry, lonely, tired, halt issues in the addiction community, because they have a small alarm, because they don't have role models at home, you are in this position, as long as you can keep yourself on the long loop, to be able to get them back to be able to think again. So let me show you your long loop. Turn to your partners again and define why you're a great teacher. A couple people just went, what? No, you have to actually name the adjectives of why, the descriptive words, why you are a great teacher. Because each of you are, even if you don't feel like you are, if you don't feel like you are, that's your alarm firing. That's the imposter complex. No, all of you are great teachers. It's why you're still here. Why are you a great teacher? Turn to your partner, go. I'm going to want to hear the words. Okay, come on back. Anybody been asked that recently? Why you're a great teacher? We don't actually celebrate often enough the fundamental memory files about why you do what you do. We don't dig into why you lead, why you teach, what makes you excited on a daily basis. Did you hear Emily say, it's my passion? If you can't be that person, which is activating the long loop, getting into your frontal lobes, taking the best memory files on purpose and putting them up in front of the world, the lobster posture. If you don't use these things intentionally, your alarm knows you're afraid, and it will make you more afraid. More on that in a second. Give me the reasons why you're a great teacher. Shout it out in a word or two.
Caring.
Caring.
Patience.
Patience. Passion. Genuine. I like kids. Really? Because they're amazing. And then they're not. And then they're amazing. And then they're not. And the best part about that is when you're in the long loop, this is why I teach, this is who I am, you can transform their lives. Hour 2 and 3, I'm going to show you how to do that intentionally. If you're on the short loop, you know what they do? They become beta lobsters. Afraid. Broken. Confused. Give me other words. Focus driven. Curious. Funny. Who's funny? Who? You like to think you're funny. Because I was about to let me go up here and tell a joke. Because you are funny, and yet with the moment I say come tell a joke, did your alarm go up? Yes, it did. Because you are always at risk of going onto the short loop. Who woke up before their alarm clock today? That's the alarm in your brain, making sure you don't miss something important, namely the school bell. How many of you never wake up before your alarm clock? You have tiny amygdala. Interesting, Emily, interesting. She is our case study today. How big is Emily's amygdala? The reason we want to know this is because it turns out that we know Emily was triggered when I put her up in front of you. But it may not be that she gets triggered in ordinary life. Because your alarm fires for different reasons and at different things. It depends on who you are. There was a story of a woman who picked a car off her son. Picked a car, a ton, off her son when it fell on him while he was changing the oil. You know why that was possible? Because the alarm is both trying to keep you alert as you get dazed at some point in this workshop, and it calls you back to attention just like it did in philosophy class. That's your alarm. It's also the alarm that protects you and allows you to fight bears. Not Leo DiCaprio, he didn't do so well. But most people are capable of doing things they don't know because the alarm is protecting you. When you then use the energy of your body on purpose on the long loop, everything changes. Everything changes because you now can task switch from the negative stuff to the stuff that's most important. Now that happens accidentally in life, but you can do it on purpose. Cognitive shift, what I call quick switching, whenever you actually want to. Go back to your partner, watch this, and now tell the story of the student who most irritated you last year. Even Emily has one from the student team. By the way, did everybody's alarm just go up? Tell the story of the student who most irritated you last year. Go. Okay, come on back. We don't want to go too deep down this rabbit hole. I saw a lot of this gesture going on. I heard the noise get louder and louder as you started to describe them. I'm not going to ask you to say their names. Go back to the top question again before we turn the page. Where is your stress level thinking of that most difficult student? Here's what I just did to you. I took you to a place of calm, of wellness, as you did your favorite vacation guided meditation, this 2-minute vacation. I then took you back to the place that triggered you, and you saw your brain going up and down in live time. It's because there are 4 levels to your brain. Turn the page. There are 4 levels to your brain. The first level is your spinal cord. So when you touch a hot stove, what happens? Ow! Right? Your hand pulls away immediately without thinking because you have a peripheral nervous system that gets the signal, this is hot, this is dangerous, and it goes to your spinal cord, and interneurons block that signal from getting up to your brain. Because if it got all the way up to your brain, it'd be too slow and you get burned. You know who gets burned a lot still? Chefs and moms. Chefs, because they're focused on 15 things at once, and so their interneurons don't work. They get blocked by the fact that they're stuck in their own heads. Why do moms or dads who are caretakers and working outside the home and taking care of the kids and worried about their kids' safety and worried about, you know how they get burned? Exhausted, absolutely, and stuck inside their heads. Our brains will not work unless you know what they're made to do and you constantly optimize their actual function to stay on the long loop. That mom or that chef worried about service, about taking care of the kiddos, same for dads, of course, they're stuck on the short loop. Second level of the brain is your brainstem. How many of you thought about breathing this morning? Did you do meditation? Yep, unless you know hour 2, what we're about to do after a break, how to be mindful, how to step back, how to meditate, you don't think about breathing because you were made to survive. You were made to actually run away from those bears or get down and pray if it's a grizzly. You do know how to handle the 2 kinds of bears, right? If you're at Mount Washington and you run into a black bear, get big and it'll run away, hopefully. If it's a grizzly bear, what do? Play dead, get in a tiny little fetus position and put your hands together and pray to whatever God you love. Because if you don't, you're going to die. The twist is you were made to survive, though. You know what else the brainstem does? When you're hungry, that's your brainstem. When you're at the gym and you see someone attractive and you run faster, that's your brainstem. Because your body was made to keep you alive for 2 reasons. So that you could eat and people the earth. That's Shakespearean, by the way. Much ado about nothing. The world must be peopled. That's all you were made for. And the brain is there to predict the future and show you what danger is out there by the memory files on the short loop. Who wants to live always chasing people and worried about bears? Which gives us the 3rd level of the brain. It is your emotional center, and it has 2 parts. The alarm and the reward center. The reward center is the nucleus accumbens. The outside is figuring out what you want, and the core of it is how you're going to get it. Let me show you how it works. Sorry to do this, but it is about to be a break and you can get a coffee. Ice cream. Do you hear the subtle pizza? Cheeseburgers. Cheesecake. Bourbon. Right? As I say these things, beer. Right? Whatever it is for you, one of those words, literally, did you salivate? Or did you at least think of it and go, ooh, that sounds good, maybe we're going to go have that for dinner? It's because your alarm system is always trying to keep you safe. Your reward system in your emotional brain is always trying to get you the good stuff. There are only 6 emotions, 5 of them bad, 1 of them good. What are the bad ones? Disgust. I'm glad you know that one. Disgust. What else? Fear. Anger. Sadness. 1 more. Joy is the good one, but it's actually not a bad one. There's only 1. You're on it. Jealousy is a form of it. Surprise. Surprise, anger, fear, sadness, and disgust. And these are biological reactions to keep you safe. If I'm actually disgusted, what does it mean? Don't eat that. It looks like this. Right? Don't eat it. If you're sad, it means don't hang out with these people. They're not going to be good for people in the earth. If you're angry, it's like these people are really not fun, and I want to be around the fun people to have the one good emotion, happiness or joy. If you're around someone who is surprising, it's there to go, ooh, is this really a place I want to be? And what's the role of fear? Get ready to run. There are 4 stress reactions that are based on fear. Fight, flight, freezing, and flocking. That's not a dirty word, by the way. So the fight people are lions. Who's a lion here? When you get stressed, you want to fight, right? You know it if you are, by the way. And in teaching, we're not supposed to ever get angry and be that kind of person. And you are. You have to know that stress reaction. Who's a flight person? Bunny rabbit. Right? You know it. You get into a stress situation and you're gone. Who's a freeze person? Really kind of hard to admit that. I'm a freeze person. When I get in a stress situation, I freeze. Who's a flocker here? Flockers are people who, when the cafeteria serves really gross lunch, they write about it on Facebook. They'll tell you everything about their breakfast. They're in the teacher's lounge, constantly talking about that irritating student. Those are flockers. Right? Right? Okay, you know who you are. There's nothing wrong with this. This is your biological stress reaction out of the 3rd level of your brain to either get you to be safe or to get you rewards. But here's the fun part. 4th level of the brain is your thinking center, your frontal lobes. You can, in any moment, collect the signals about reward or alarm and notice them. So go to the question, 2 or 3, whichever one it is, and write down what triggers you about that student. Write down the student's name, and then what triggers you about that student. Write down 2, 3, 4 adjectives or reasons. It's all the way at the bottom. Jumping around on purpose. Oop, no, it's at the top, sorry. When you're done with that, write what stresses you out at work, because we need to talk for a quick second about what these actual factors are so that you're aware of it. What triggers you about the student, what stresses you out at work. Okay, here's what happens. You get triggered by that student. It could have been something they did. It could have been the way they looked at you. I was doing a group of private school educators and chaplains, and this guy said, that student who's just energetic, bouncing around in the front of the classroom, just drives me bananas. I'm like, why? He's like, he won't shut up. Well, I said, does it happen like that every day? He said, no. I said, when does it really happen? He went, oh, shiitake. It's when I've had a bad day with my toddler. Because the thing that triggers you about the kid is actually linked to what stresses you out at work. If you're stressed by deadlines, if you're stressed by rules, if you're stressed by some of the other teachers, if you're stressed by, change, then the students and the things that are already annoying are going to become more annoying because you're stuck on the short loop. Now answer the next question. What stresses you out in other parts of your life? Because if you can't name these triggers, as many times as you measure stress, you're not going to be able to actually switch when you need to from it and get back to the long loop. What stresses you out in other parts of life? Now, if you look at this list of what stresses you out in life and at work, are the days when you're triggered by the student, are they connected? Because often what happens is there's something in our circumstances that causes us to be on high alert. If I asked every single one of you to come up and do the rest of this workshop, only 2 hours left. Anybody game? Mindfulness meditation and then a brain health assessment after that? Anybody game? Some of you would feel so confident that you could make it work just based on my notes. You might give it a try because you have tiny alarms. Most of us look at impossible challenges and we just go, I can't do it. It's not possible. Alex Hamel, climbing a bull, it's not possible. That's because your alarm system is functioning well. Your alarm system is functioning well when it actually sends these emotions to you and you realize this is a dangerous situation. Here's the twist. Your kids in your classroom, their alarm systems are not always functioning well. Go to the next question. Turn to your partner and answer, are the triggers at life and work, the things outside or inside, that cause you to go onto the short loop to have a stress reaction, are they different? Turn to your partner and discuss it, and then we'll take a break. There's not a right answer here. Show of hands, how many of you's triggers are different at work and at home? How many are pretty much the same? Right? Triggers are the things outside of us, people, places, smells, gestures, bears, that cause a stress reaction. But they can be on the inside too. They can be memories. They can be a sound. They can be all the things that reverberate in our heads. And that's happening to your kids. And for some of them, they are totally safe at school, but not at home. For some of them, the things that bother them in the classroom wouldn't bother them at home. It just depends on the kiddo. And what you've got to be looking for is when their stress reaction goes up, because you can notice that, and in the moment it happens, just like I had you do a guided vacation, you can loan them your learning brain and say, hey, I see that you don't like Bobby. Under your breath, you're going, I don't like Bobby either. We can figure out ways when we're with him to get you on the long loop. You can start to use this language, short loop, long loop. Short loop when I'm stressed, long loop when I'm in control. Now here's the last question before break. Do you know what triggers the student who most irritated? Because the twist is, when you can actually recognize their triggers, you suddenly are the leader, the educator, the caring human being who's using your long loop not to avoid them because they cause one of the negative 5 emotions, but who actually wants to connect with them and figure out how both of you can stay in the 4th level of your brain. Thinking, caring, creating a community. I'm going to show you how to do that in hour 2, because there's the first step to making that possible. To stay on the long loop, to get your brain connected, you actually have to know how to be mindful. It's not the stuff that's out there in the culture about mindfulness will fix everything. That's not it. It's brain science. It's how you become a trained athlete, a sniper, and the best teacher in the world. Take 5 minutes and come on back, and we'll get into hour 2. Thank you for grabbing your seats again. So a quick review, just as everybody's getting their seats again. What is the part of your brain that causes stress? The amygdala. What do we call it? The alarm. If you can just recognize that you have an alarm, your students have an alarm, its levels can be measured, it can change everything. What's the part of your emotional brain that is after cookies? The reward system, technically called the nucleus accumbens, and it's always battling back and forth. What is the part of your brain that is getting you on the 4th level that allows you to be on the long loop? Prefrontal cortex, frontal lobes, neocortex, different names for similar parts. And what's interesting is the hippocampus is described as the memory center, but memories are stored throughout the brain. And the stuff I'm about to give you in hours 2 and 3, about how you actually get your brain back online, is all based on neuroscience. Here's the twist. It's a new field. So the research I'm giving you comes from the book Hijacked by Your Brain. And it was done with Dr. Julian Forge, and what he figured out is how to literally turn down the stress response. His work was how to take people who had the worst trauma, disasters, the theater of war, abuse, and in 10 weeks, he figured out how to literally turn down the amygdala function from traumatic stress without medication. The first skill is just measuring stress, actually noticing where you are. The second skill is being able to focus on what you care about. And most people can do that when you actually build up the habit. Here's the twist. If you find yourself triggered at any point during this presentation going forward, if I did it already, just know that you're in a safe space in this audience. I did this once with a bunch of councilmen at Heinz Convention Center, and as I was doing these next exercises on mindfulness, on stepping back, he had a pretty traumatic stress reaction. And the reason was because once I'd introduced the brain to him and how it worked, talked about short and long loop, he had a history as a veteran. And just knowing that those memories were there, subconsciously, his brain, when I asked him to imagine eating ice cream, he literally stood up in the middle of the workshop and said, "Don't make me do this ice cream imagination. This is stupid and this isn't going to help anything." I triggered him. Did I do anything? No. And when you trigger someone in your class, you didn't do anything. It's just we as people interact, and different things unintentionally cause us to get on the short loop. And so in the middle of the workshop, I'm about to teach you to be mindful and step back. I literally physically stepped back. And I just said, "Sir, totally my fault. Imagining ice cream is not going to make you feel better in this situation. And I promise you that what you went through is real and matters." He went, "Oh my God, thank you." and sat down. Because suddenly I had recognized his alarm. I had showed him that it was a real thing. And that I hadn't intended to trigger him, but I didn't need to say that my exercise was so powerful. I just needed to say, hey, I see your alarm. I notice you. I see what's going on. When you can do that with kids and they see that you notice their alarm reaction, their alarm turns down. It's the equivalent of giving a toddler who's screaming, what do you give them? A snack, keys, to distract them. That's what your alarm in your brain needs. The twist is too many rewards, and you get stuck on the reward loop rather than the thinking loop. People who have post-traumatic stress disorder are not wrong. They've had experiences that are so severe that their alarm stays up all the time. And so the research we did with people who had been in the theater of war, they would come home and they would go to the grocery store and a balloon would pop and suddenly they're down on the floor screaming as if a bomb had gone off. Is their brain broken? No. It's just hypervigilant. It's just always looking for trouble. You have kids in your classroom whose brains are always looking for trouble. The ones who are hyperactive, maybe smaller alarms where they haven't yet built the long loop. And other kids, their alarms are huge where they've gone through trauma and they just don't know how to manage it. What I'm about to teach you is the first step. The most important thing all of us have to do when we recognize our alarms are up or a reward loop is firing too aggressively. Who's heard of the term mindfulness? Most of us in the teaching community have at this point because we have the Mindful Classroom and other programs that are out there. There's a new book called McMindfulness out there, and it is a critique of mindfulness as an industry. And what the author says is, now that Goldman Sachs is using mindfulness as an opiate of the corporate culture to make people work harder, mindfulness is bad. What's true is that mindfulness is not a cure-all, nor is it as cool as everyone makes it out to be. Go and do yoga and everything's going to be fine. No, go and do yoga and you will center and you will have done mindful movements, mindful breathing, and quiet meditation. Maybe the head rub from the yoga instructor. A little weird, but still kind of wonderful. And then you leave the yoga studio having done your mindful exercises, and you're in New Hampshire and we're in the Massachusetts area, and you know what happens next. You get cut off in traffic and you give the salute. Because mindfulness doesn't fix anything. What it does is even more powerful. It opens up the pathways in your brain from the alarm to the hippocampus to the frontal lobes. And it actually makes the neural pathways, the white matter, the highways, it makes them open. Being able to step back when you notice stress, and in fact measuring stress is a way of being mindful, literally gets your brain online. In 2 to 10 seconds, the different exercises we're about to do, and then I'll teach you about meditation too, and then we'll figure out what you can first switch to in this year before I come back in December and teach you a whole new pantheon of ways to do that. What you can do is you can literally get your brain online whenever you want to. Tired, stressed, exhausted, you can still switch. So I gave 8 hours of seminar in Chicago on Wednesday. Does that sound like a long time to talk? Teachers, you do it every day. This is one of the only audiences I can say, you feel that pain. You know what it's actually like to work 7 straight hours with a tiny little break with screaming children. By the way, corporate people are much worse because they're not as fun. What's great about it is that you then get to go home and you get to actually do the habits I'll teach you about in hour 3. You're already doing a lot of this intuitively. When you do it intentionally, it changes your brain. I got to the airport for my 7 o'clock flight. 7-hour delay. Which part of your brain just fired? The alarm going, oh my God, and then you're at O'Hare? It's the worst. Guess what I had? 7 hours by myself. You know what they have at O'Hare? Chicago hot dogs. And beer. And a Starbucks. And you know what they have at Starbucks? Coffee. And you know what I had? I had my laptop and my iPad and my iPhone. More on that in hour 3. Danger, danger. Too much technology will break your brain. It's like crack. All my friends were saying to me, are you okay? I'm like, all right, folks. I'm about to fly at 36,000 feet above the air like I'm a bird. I just got to work with a bunch of really smart people and teach them conflict resolution. I have 7 hours to myself to do whatever the fire truck I want. Now, I wish my wife had been there with me. That would have been more fun. Oh, wait, FaceTime. We are in the most amazing generation in the history of the world in terms of having everything available to us all the time. And we get into a place where we actually have the space to enjoy it, and we can't because something didn't go exactly the way it was supposed to. Because there's a delay. Because something is on back order for 12 hours at Amazon. Oh my God. But the reality is, do you hear the people complaining on Facebook? None of you are probably on Facebook, it's on Instagram, sorry. But you hear the complaints and you're like, what is wrong with you? Just go back to the 1940s and you know what they didn't have? Food. Go back to the times of the greatest wars and you know what they didn't have? Anything. Except they still found ways to sit on the porch with a glass of lemonade and actually build relationships. Go back to prehistoric times and they had campfires. Now, we can't do campfires right now. I'm going out to Colorado next week. You know what they have in Colorado again? Fires. Not fires, the plague. Oh, yeah. No, really, the plague's back. It never left, it's back. It's in the prairie dogs, it's in the squirrels, and it's in the fleas and ticks. We may not be able to camp, right? The trouble of the world doesn't ever go away, just like stress doesn't go away. And yet right now, in this moment, you have more resources to do something about the moments that triggered you, to do something about stress, chronic and otherwise, to work with that student who drives you crazy in a way you couldn't before. But first, you have to learn to step back. Open your workbooks to Act 2. So the little book that you have in your folder is called Mindfulness is Sublime. And the reason that I wrote it this way is I want people to have a little handbook they can put in their purse, put in their back pocket, and it is all the techniques that I'm teaching you and the brain science that I gave you in hour 1. If you need a reminder, I have people who use this 2 to 3 pages at a time who wrote it really tightly, so it's just reflections. Hijacked has the science of this. This is just the practical application. And the first definition I need you to write down is, what is mindfulness? It is stepping back. Definition 1, stepping back. That is the physical movement of stepping back from the short loop into the long loop. Second definition, short loop to long loop. First definition, stepping back. Second, short loop to long loop. Third definition. Everybody got 1 and 2? Third definition, being present. Now you've heard this before, but the twist is we aren't most of the time. Now that can be for real reasons, because you have been through a trauma and you're continuing to suffer from PTSD. It could be because of mental health issues. By the way, I have them. I have rabid social anxiety. Do I look like it? It's because I've worked so hard to turn down my alarm, like Alex did in terms of his fear, to do impossible things. Now, standing up in front of people is impossible for some people. For me, this is the scariest thing in the world. That's why I keep doing it. But you all terrify me. Like literally, you horrify me. And if I actually stick in that fear and stay on the short loop, I can't be present. You have a bunch of kiddos who can't be present. You have teachers who, for real reasons like grief, do you know how long grief takes to actually heal from? Years. And when you know how to step back, you can have more and longer cycles of actually being in the present. Who's been river rafting? Anybody done class 6? Classic river rapids are big. They are waterfalls. They are violent. And I went down to West Virginia and did the New River, second oldest river in the world. Why they call it the New River when it's the second oldest, I'll never understand. And I went river rafting with a guy named Doug, past tense of dig. His joke. He told us other jokes like, what's a cow with 2 legs? Lean beef. What's a cow with no legs? Ground beef. You know why I was telling these jokes? To get us present. Because we were about to do something really dangerous. And you have to get your students present every single time they're in the classroom because they're worried about their grades and the future, and they're worried about the past, what happened at home, and who doesn't like them, and what's going to happen if I go to my locker. And they have so many alarm thoughts, emotions that are stored and keep getting pulled on the short loop. And Doug said, make sure you don't go to the past and worry. Don't go to the future and think that you can fix it. Stay in the present because it's a gift. Never forgotten that line. The present is actually a gift. And Buddha figured it out for us. The original mindfulness guru wasn't Jesus, Buddha. Jesus would go away to quiet places. Buddha's the one who said, you know how you fix suffering? Sit. Just sit. Do you think that would work at the UN? If I went into a conflict resolution meeting and I said, the way we're going to solve world suffering is just sit. But you know who's doing that right now? His name is the Dalai Lama. And he's running around just trying to remind people, you can stay in the present. You, as intuitively talented leaders and thinkers, you can already fix most of the problems that are already there because you have the gifts. You can be on the long loop more than you actually realize. But you have to be present. Definition 1, step back. Definition 2, switch from the short to the long loop. Definition 3, be present. Definition 4, be. Just be. This is so important for you as teachers and administrators. You know why? Because what is your life spent? Experiencing. Notice the word I didn't use there. 2 letters. Starts with D. Ends with O. Got it yet? I know it was a long summer. You with me? Which word am I? Say it. What do you spend your life with? Doing. You've seen the goofy one at Whole Foods. Don't be a human doing, be a human being. Cheesy, here's the thing. I need you to be. What I mean by be is in the moment. You don't have to be more or better or add the next acronym program, though I know Tom will ask that. What you have to do is be the person, the gifted, talented human who you already are, who has trained, who cares, who wants to actually build a community. The reason I'm giving you this little sermonette before I teach you the technique is because if you can't be, then all you are is solving problems, and that's the alarm in your brain. The alarm wants you to fix stuff. Your students just need you to be present. So here's how you do that. I'm going to give you 5 different mindful techniques, and our goal here is to figure out which one you like so that you can use it before stressful moments, during stressful moments, and after stressful moments to train your brain to stay on the long loop. By the way, did I say mindfulness is going to fix all your problems and make everything better? It won't. Thoreau went and was mindful, leaving Emerson's house, opening story in Mindfulness is Sublime, because being with Emerson's children was just too stressful. He had 2. How many do you have in your classes? 20? 24? Anybody got 30? Right? Like, the reality of those children, they're going to drive you crazy. But he couldn't handle 2 or 3, so he goes off to Walden Pond, and you know what he does for the first year? He doesn't write. He just looks at the dust in the sun. He plants beans and tends the garden. He fishes, which, if you've been to Walden Pond, there aren't many fishes. So you know what fishing is? Sitting all day, standing all day. He literally would just listen to the sound of the train, which he found awful, from the budding metropolis of Concord, Massachusetts. It was too busy for him, so he would listen to it until suddenly it was as beautiful as the hawk screeching. He spent a year just being his way, and then he had the most prolific writing time in his entire life, in that 1 year, 2 months, 2 days that he talks about in Walden. He was the best. Why? Because he knew how to step back, get on the long loop, be present, and just be himself. Exercise number 1. Listen. Now, a couple of you are hearing me say listen, and I'm going to then say look, and I'm going to say count, and you're going to go, this is stupid. Please, if that is your reaction, it is your alarm saying this doesn't make any sense, I don't need to do this, I already know how to do it. Yes, you do. You know how to do it. Do you know how to use it like a trained killer? Because I'm going to teach a breathing exercise like snipers who are trying to keep you safe. Do you know how to do it like someone who's in the middle of a crisis and is the one who can remain calm? Because it's what our safety workers do. It's what our most successful psychiatrists, and so, oh wait, that's you. If you know how to do this on purpose, literally you can keep your brain open and everything is possible. By the way, was I comfortable at O'Hare for 7 hours watching the human zoo? Lots of alarm reactions. Do you know what it looks like to watch people run to their flights? America's not as small as it used to be. And this is a humorous thing to watch all the animals get out there and do their stuff. But do you see how I'm describing it as funny? It's because I was present. And it's like, oh my God, we need to do some more working out. But the twist is, most of us would be miserable, triggered by all the things that were going on. So when I give you these exercises, I'm literally teaching you to be a version of Buddha. I'm teaching you to be a version of the highest human power and evolution, if you can do it on purpose. Get comfortable in your seats. Legs crossed and so forth is fine, but get comfortable. So we're going to do a bunch of exercises, and you've got to see which one works for you. Because you can now do this when the crisis hits. You can do this before the thing that's difficult for you. You can do this when you're just tired because it's November. So close your eyes and just listen to the sounds of the room. And take in as many sounds as you can. Count them. Identify them. Just identify the sounds in the room. Give you about 30 seconds. Ready? Go. Okay, come on back. I used to use a cymbal at this moment, and I would just smash it. And I was like, welcome to your alarm in your brain. And people are like, you suck. Okay, I'm not going to do that. So what sounds did you hear? Tapping? AC? The door shut? Pen dropping? Did everybody hear the pen drop? Show of hands. Did everyone hear me walking? Did anybody hear their own breath? Yes. That means you are on the way to Buddhahood. So I studied with a monk, Trappist monk, in Spencer, Massachusetts. And you know what his most annoying thing in his life was as he was doing his prayers 7 times a day? The guy next to him. You know why? He was a loud breather. And so there's so many different things that your alarm will pick up that irritate you in the world. Did anybody get lost in that short time and just listen? Did anybody's alarm go down? Show of hands. It's interesting because for some of us, just the invitation in a yoga meditation class, mindful exercise, worship service, guided meditations that happen in apps like Calm and Headspace, it's all we need. Who got annoyed every time I made a sound? Right? Because your alarm is up and you're like, will you just let me listen? The twist is, what was the assignment? Just listen and identify. The twist is, again, your brain, your alarm is always judging sounds because it's trying to predict the future to keep you alive and people the earth. Remember this. All of these alarm functions are there to keep you safe. Are there any bears? So now, let's see if you can do it. Mindful on purpose. The first one was just listen. This one is concentrative. I want you to pick one sound, still listening. Pick one sound and stay on it for 30 seconds. What's your name in the page of the dress? We just yawned. She's like, don't call on me for yawning. I'm going to actually make a wonderful point about how Buddha you are. Linda. So Linda just yawned. You know why? Either she's bored. Are you bored? No, she's comfortable. Am I hearing a cricket? What is that? There's literally a cricket in here? Someone's becoming a Buddha. There's some sort of moment going on. So she yawns. You know why she yawns? Because her stress function turned down. Because you have something kind of significant happening tomorrow. What's that? School's starting. But in this moment, Monday, even worse, you're not even close enough to it yet, right? It's popping. And as you get ready, your body is getting you ready. But in this moment, you know that you still have an hour and a few minutes to just be. And we rarely get permission to do that. And so either you're tired, possible, or she just relaxed. Just listening allows our body to actually turn down. And the reason the body does that is because it doesn't want you to waste energy until you need to. Yawning of a kid in class is not a bad thing. You've actually made them comfortable. That's why I check if they're bored. So this concentrative exercise is I want you to listen, pick one sound, and stay on it for 30 seconds. Only listen to the sound. Have no other thoughts in your head. Only listen to the sound. Are you already a little anxious? You can do it, and if your brain gets distracted, come back to the sound. Everybody got a sound picked? Go. Come on back. Show of hands, who could do it? Just stay on the sound. If you couldn't do it, how many of you could come back to the sound after you know it, right? You always have that capacity. And the goal of mindfulness is not to stay in the thing you're doing perfectly. It's to recognize, oh, I can always come back to whatever I choose to have in my head. I heard a cricket in an auditorium of 300 people on stage, worried about what I'm going to say next, because you can become someone who, like Neo in the Matrix, slows down time and isn't worried. So next exercise, look. So I want you to find something interesting. Oh, well, I'll let you choose. Could be the flag, could be a shadow on the wall, could be your wonderful mascot. Pick something to look at. Not me, I have social anxiety. Pick one thing to just look at, and I just want you to stare at it for 20 seconds. Ready? Go. Come on back. Show of hands, who could do it? Who didn't like it at all? So some of you are going to like listening better than looking. Some of you will like looking better. Some of you will like listening for all the sounds. Some of you will like listening to one sound. You know what you can do anytime you're really stressed? You have breaks between classes. You have earbuds. You put on your favorite song and you just listen to it. There's a reason, because it resets the brain. You're choosing what you're looking or listening at. When we've got troops who come back with road rage because they're PTSD, we'll have them put a picture of their family or something they love in the visor of their car so they can pull over to the side and just look at the picture until they calm down. Same thing that happened with Tom Cruise in Top Gun. When he would lose himself in a stress reaction, and he's a pilot and he's flying at Mach 1, the picture of his family is what brought him back. Third exercise, counting, 2 forms. Thomas Jefferson said, when pissed, count to 10. When really ready to start a world war, count to 100. Paraphrase. And the reason that he said this is because there are 2 kinds of counting. The actual abstract 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Who's seen Donald Duck and Math and Magic Land? Not enough people. I'm going to get to Tom and we're going to do this as a viewing at some point. It's one of the greatest movies in math history. It's the only movie in math history. And in this movie, you see the abstract power of numbers. So right now, I want you to count to 10. Slowly. Eyes open or closed. Up to you. And then put your hand up when you're done. Count to 10. Ready? Go. Okay, put your hands down. Do you know that it took about twice as long between when the first hand up went up and the second hand went up? That's because some of you have tiny alarms, right? So if your alarm either isn't up, or if you're not an anxious person, you're going to count 1, 2, 3. But you're going to have little kiddos in your class, and you teach them to count when they're stressed, and they're going, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm the fastest, right? And the reason they're going to do that is because they are either agitated and stressed, or because they're the kind of kiddos who always want to win. You just got to notice these things about yourself. And there's a second kind of counting which is really powerful, and that's to use your imagination. So I want you to count to 7 with your eyes closed, and then open your eyes when you're done. Write 1 on a chalkboard or whiteboard. You have to pick chalkboard or whiteboard. You picked. And you have to pick the color of the chalk or the marker. You know why you have to do these things ahead of time? Because if you haven't actually picked all these things when you're doing mindfulness exercises, your alarm is going to go, what the hell are you doing? As I was standing over there looking at these very odd shapes that I know are for the sound in the room, I heard my inner alarm go, what the hell are you making these people do? The little kids in your classroom, and you teach them these exercises to get their brain online, they're going to go, that's not going to work, because their alarm wants to run the show and keep them safe. But if you can get them on the frontal lobes to do this sort of thing on purpose, everything changes. So you've got your color, got chalk or white. Write 1 on the board, erase it. 2 on the board, erase it. Imagine that in your head, go to 7. Ready? Go. Okay, come on back. So what's funny is a few of you put your hands up, and the instruction was to open your eyes when you were done. And it's not right or wrong, but just hear that when you get your kiddos and they're doing one thing after another, the brain remembers the last thing. Just because they do the instructions wrong, it's not because you're a bad teacher. It's not because they're bad kids. It's because we're asking people to stay in their frontal lobes all day. And how long can you actually concentrate before you lose your mind? About 20 minutes. The best, about 90 minutes. That's why we take breaks every 45 to 50. More on that in a bit. The twist is these exercises get your brain back online, and when you tell a joke or you ask them to look, listen, or count, it changes everything. But you got to realize your goal here is to figure out which of these forms you like best, so that when you get on the short loop and you want to kill a student or a spouse, that you actually have the ability to step back from that emotional one of the negative 5 reactions. Or if your pleasure center is firing too much, you don't give in to that either and eat the whole box of cookies. All right. So when I started doing this research and started doing this writing, I was 40 pounds heavier, and I was driving around Connecticut and Massachusetts at 10 all the time. And I met Dr. Ford, and he taught me about the short loop and the long loop, and he taught me about stepping back, and he taught me how to switch. The next course we'll do in December. And I realized that I suddenly had a choice. But when I was at a 10 all the time, when you're stressed all the time, when you were constantly on the short loop, you know what you want at the end of the day? Pizza. And we had this place in Ellington, Connecticut that served pizzas that were sheet pan pizzas. And I would get 2, one for me and another for me. Now they were supposed to be for the whole week, and they were supposed to be lunches and everything, and I would come home so stressed out of my mind, not doing the kind of exercises I'm teaching you, and I would eat and eat and eat and eat. And you know what goes really well with 2 big mother chunkin' pizzas? Beer. And you know what goes really well with beer? Absolutely more beer. Ice cream. Do you know Ben & Jerry? I bought them houses. And it was all a stress reaction, a chronic, short loop, hyperactive stress reaction, and I didn't know how to step back. And then he taught me how to step back. And suddenly, I could choose to eat 2 pieces, not 2 pies. If your kiddos don't know how to step back, if you don't know how to step back, you get stuck on the short loop and you can't do anything about it. But you gotta know how you like to step back. So who liked imagination counting better than abstract counting? Who liked imagination? Who liked abstract? Who liked counting better than listening? Who liked listening? Who like counting? You see how it's all different? Just like you have so many different learning styles within your classroom, the way in which you get your brain back online depends on who you are. So I wake you up again, turn to your partner, and describe which one you liked best of the exercises, and which form of stepping back you liked, and I'll give you 2 more, and then I'll teach you about meditation before we take our second break. Turn to your partner, and which one did you like best and why? Come on back. The way in which you need to step back is the way in which your brain works. It's the way in which your loops have been formed and the way you then rebuild them. The thing about mindfulness is, the thing about stepping back, if you don't do it when you're not stressed, it won't work as a way to shift your focus when you are. If you like a particular kind of mindfulness, if you do it once, it gets your brain back online. If you do more of it, that's when you build the pathways and it becomes a thing that reduces stress. So mindfulness is not magic just because you take a breath. It's magic because you use it intentionally in response to triggers when the alarm is up, and then your brain begins to trust it. So I'm now going to teach you method 4, which is breathing. You know what you all are? Professional breathers. You've been doing it since you were somewhere between 3 seconds and 2 minutes old, so if you were slow learners. But you all kept going, and the twist is, we don't, unless we're meditators, often breathe on purpose. But the only reason I can get up in front of a crowd like this is because I know how to do these kinds of breaths, depending on what I need. So they come in 4 forms, all shapes. The first is circle, and the reason I created it this way, not the first to name them in shapes, but put it as a bundle, is because you can teach it to kids, and you can't forget. Shapes are memorable, they become sticky memory files. So the first is a circle, and that's when you're going to breathe in for 4 and out for 4. In for 4, out for 4. You could call it an ellipsis. What's the shape that's eclipse? Ellipse? Ellipse. Too many shapes. I'm seeing the moon in my head. By the way, I've been up here doing this for a bit, and I'm improvising the whole time, and I'm starting to have a bit of cognitive fatigue. Right? When you, as a teacher, at a certain point, say something silly or trip on your words, there's nothing wrong with you. Your frontal lobes, just like your legs running a marathon, wear out. And what did I just do? I asked for help. You can do that in every moment if you are present, if you are mindful, and you realize you're not as crazy as someone told you once were. So the circle breathing, or ellipse breathing, ellipse, is 1 in, 1 out, 2 in, 2 out, 3 in, 3 out, depending on the size of your lungs. We're going to do 4 now. 2 circles. I'm going to count into 4 and out to 4. And by the way, a few of you are going to go, I don't want to count with you counting, that's annoying. Go with me and recognize that you should not use the mindfulness apps. It won't work for you. You need to do it yourself. It's not right or wrong, it's just what your alarm likes. Take a big breath to clear. Now breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4. Was that too short for anybody? Right? So you've got lungs that have bigger capacity. It's not about athleticism, though it can be. I'm working with a future Olympic rower right now, and he breathes in for 15. It's just about your natural self. When I do this with folks who are elderly, I've done this with cancer survivors, diminished lung capacity. There's not a right count, you just have to find the right count. Now let's do a triangle. 4 in, 4 out. Hold your breath on the bottom. Make sense? Take a clearing breath, big one. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Who liked the circle? Who liked the triangle? See how it's half and half? The whole point of putting your hands up here is not just my research, it's also because I want you to notice that in any room of students, you have different brains, different alarm functions, different things that let them step back. Now let's do the famous upside down triangle. of Dr. Andrew Weil. Let's see if you can do it. He's the guy who made the green stuff hippie-friendly in America and did research on holistic medicine. By the green stuff, I mean the stuff that's legal in Massachusetts, not in New Hampshire yet. By the way, quick thing on mindfulness. If you really are struggling and you can't get yourself back, chew gum. Jordan Spieth did it to win the Open Championship. Phil Mickelson tried to do it, added CBD oil to it, hasn't won since. So the upside down triangle is breathe in, hold, breathe out. His magic pattern, an old yogic pattern, is breathe in for 4, hold for 7, breathe out for 8. Your lungs may do it, they may not. I find this to be really powerful because when I'm really stressed before something, this does not work during for me, it might work for you. I find the circles work better during. This allows me to totally get in the moment, and it takes literally 19 seconds. Take a clearing breath. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Who can do it? Wonderful. So the twist is, if you do that 4 triangles in the morning, 4 triangles in the evening, you've built up pathways that not only allow you to use this as a mindful step back, but literally a reset to your entire alarm system. But for some of you, you hated it, so do the triangles, or the circles, or ellipse. Now, why do I keep bringing that name up again, even though I now know it? Because I'm creating memorized files of you. Oh, remember the guy who couldn't say ellipse? You'll never forget that that's a form of breathing you can do. This is the way you got to get into your kids' heads. Repetition is the only way that the neural pathways get formed. They either become sticky and thick, or they become broken mild. They either become highways that are ready to be driven on by a race car, or they're bumpy and disjointed. In your stress system, you literally have dendrites that either get open and allow the pathways to flow, or they shrink. This research was done at the University of Indiana, and they're not available. Final shape, the square, aka sniper breathing. We're going to go in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. Take a clearing breath. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Now, when biathletes use this in the Winter Olympics, they've just skied for half a mile, and they have to literally, because their bodies are breathing like this, be able to hit 5 targets, or they have to go penalty lap. They will breathe either at the end of the in-breath, during the hold, at the end of the out-breath, or during the hold. Same with snipers. It depends on who you are. So turn to your partner, and which one did you like? Circle, or what's the shape? Ellipse, or the triangle, the upside down triangle, the square. Which one did you like? Turn to your partner, go. And why? Come on back. Who liked the circle? Show of hands. Who liked the triangle? Show of hands. Who liked the upside down triangle? Who liked the square? Again, almost split across, with the most going to the upside down triangle. Maybe that's because I presented as the one I like best. I maybe just giving off that vibe. That's the way this stuff can work. Which one right now, put a star of the 4, listen, look, count, breathe. Which one would you be most likely to do when you needed to step back during a stressful day, or when you're dealing with that most irritating student? 5th form of mindfulness, and then we'll take a break, is taste. Now you notice how these are all your senses. The twist is, if you will chew on a lemon Oh yeah, I said it. Just like a women's PGA star, when she gets irritated, I can't believe her caddy has to do this for her, but he does, or she does, cuts up a lemon, and when she has a negative thought, gets frustrated, or starts missing shots, she will chew on a lemon. I tried it recently. Have you chewed on a lemon recently? That is nasty. But if you do it on purpose, your alarm goes, well, you're just chewing on a lemon, there must not be a bear. Like if you do crazy things like this on purpose, like if you pinch yourself, it's the same as tasting something bad, and it wakes you up and it takes you out of the short loop. And if you don't like lemon, just have a peppermint, for God's sake. Right? Have a peppermint, a chocolate, a little bit of lemonade. Don't drink the whole container, that'll put you into shock. Have that little taste of something that you like. The reason I often have coffee up on stage is because its bitterness reminds me to stay in the present. So let's take a break. When we come back, I'll finish up Act 2 and differentiate mindfulness from meditation. We'll apply it, take 5 minutes, and then I'll show you how to keep your brain healthy for the rest of the year. As folks are sitting down, a quick review again. What's the part of your brain that's trying to keep you safe? Amygdala, the alarm. What's the part of you that wants cookies? The reward center, the nucleus accumbens. What is the thing you can always do to get your brain back online? Step back. And one of those ways is going to work for you. Turn the page in your workbook. Show of hands, have you ever meditated? Have you ever meditated? So meditation gets a dirty word of being part of the New Age, crunchy, and I'm not judging New Age and crunchy as bad, it's this thing that's sort of esoteric. All meditation is one of these mindful exercises for 10 minutes or more. Now the magic number of 10 minutes and 12 minutes in the study I'm about to give you is based on research saying when you actually get the effects of changing your brain, building up new neural pathways, and literally shrinking or growing the parts on your brain. The bad parts shrink, the good parts grow. The twist is, what if every kid in this district meditated with you once a day? You can actually make this normal. You're a learning professional community trying to take interventions that actually change things. Can you take 10 minutes out of a math class to meditate with kids? Ask them to count to 200? Now a bunch of the kids are going to go, why are we doing this? And that's the 17-year-olds. The twist is if you don't make it normal for them to step back, if you don't let it become normal for them to get out of the short loop and stay on the long loop, then they can't actually learn. And if you will do exercises like this in regular class, they will be able to learn more because they stay on the long loop. They can actually absorb rather than being worried about the test, or worried about making you happy, or worried about mom and dad judging them, or worried about college. And that's our kindergartners. Right? It starts so early these days. So, how long can you breathe before being distracted? Write down how long you think it is. Just a guess. If you were unable to do the breathing exercises, write down 10 or 15 seconds. But how long do you think you can really breathe without being distracted, without wandering thoughts coming to your head? Write down the number that you think. Who says more than 10 seconds? I got someone up there who's like, nope, can't do it, 10 seconds. My brain, there is no right answer here. You just have to know that at a certain point, you're gonna have wandering thoughts. We call it monkey brain. Monkey brain's gonna show up and it's gonna absolutely violate you. And those of you who are athletes know that it shows up right as you need to perform. And those of you who are musicians know that it comes right at the pause. And those of you who are actors or actresses, you recognize that you suddenly are afraid you're gonna forget your line. That's monkey brain. And your alarm is monkey brain because it's trying to remind you of all the stuff that matters. In the middle of the night, when you suddenly have your to-do list come to you, that's monkey brain. It's actually your alarm. It's just trying to keep you safe. So you put a notebook by the side of your, not your phone, more on that in a second. But you put a little notebook there to actually get it all out of your head, and your alarm goes, oh, I got it. These wandering, crazy thoughts that show up in meditation are not bad. They are your alarm trying to keep you safe. And the reason you have to meditate for more than just a few minutes is because you have to learn that you can wait the alarm out. It does not control it doesn't run you. It's there to keep you alert and safe, but it's not the only voice. Is there a right way to meditate? Nope. Write down these 8 forms. Number 1, mindful. It's the exercises we just did where you're just breathing or looking or listening or counting or walking or going slowly, one thing at a time, and your mind wanders and you just come back to what you're doing. You're not worried about it. You just made 10 minutes to just breathe. Second form, concentrative. Remember the 2 different kinds of listening exercises? This is the militant, monk form of meditating, where if you don't breathe the right way, you will get back. And I use that exaggerated cartoon voice because it's really about staying on the breath. No, really stay on the breath. No, you're getting water, come back to the breath. It's intense. And you do this because you want to focus more. That means instead of just letting the thoughts come and go, when the thought comes, you immediately snap back to the breath. Third form, loving kindness meditation, also known as metta meditation. That's when you say a mantra like, I love that most difficult student. Over and over. You imagine that difficult student smiling. You're like, I can't do that. He or she is a demon. Now imagine that demon bathed in light. But this is literally a form of meditation that is important. They've done studies with the 3 forms, mindful, concentrative, and loving kindness. And each of them grow a different part of the brain. So the loving kindness makes you more empathetic. The concentrative makes you a better performer, more focused. The mindful shrinks your alarm. You can have less alarm function if you actually do this kind of meditation more often. And the meditation forms are diverse because everybody needs a different kind. 4th form, mantras. So if you pick a phrase like, I rock. On the in-breath, I. On the out-breath, rock. I taught this to a friend once, and he's like, what do you want more of your life? I want to go to the beach more. I'm like, say beach on the in-breath. I'm like, what do you want to feel more in your life? I want the sun. And like, say sun. Beach on the in-breath, sun on the out-breath. He did it for years, mostly in the winter. And it absolutely changed his life because he knew what to do when he was stressed. Use that to build a 7-figure business. Now, transcendental meditation gives you a mantra. You know how much you have to pay for it? Thousands of dollars. I kind of have this theory they're giving everybody the same words. I just saved you thousands of words, $1. Do the thing for 10, 12 minutes at a time. Pick your words. You have that power. 5th kind, music. What do I mean by music? Listen to music. Well, why is that not mindful meditation? Because music has brain waves. It literally gives you off a particular signal that your brain will either get stressed by or relaxed by. Here's the funny thing about music. When really stressed, listen to metal. Can that be meditation? Absolutely. When I'm really nervous before a talk, I put on 9 Inch Nails. Anybody remember 9 Inch Nails? Right? There's nothing better than right? But I'm 12 minutes. The heavy stuff. When I'm chill, and I can send any of you my Spotify ambient mix that I use, it's those spa-like sounds. That's the cheesy version. I've matched them up to brainwaves that'll actually let you go to a deep place. I just listen to the music. You know why this is my favorite form, the music listening stuff? Because I got a lot of monkeys. And because my head's too active, I don't want to stay in there. I have to be there the rest of the day. Give me 10 minutes off. When I just come back to the music over and over again, it works. 6th kind, movement. Yoga is meditation. If we had more time, we could do walking meditation together like the monks do, and we would literally just walk around this auditorium as one big circle wave, following the person in front of us, walking as they walk. They do it for hours at a time. A little exhausting, but cool. And they claim that they can feel the earth move. I don't believe that. But blind people can ride bikes. So why can't we enhance our senses by actually making room to actually do this? 7th form, creativity. Eddie Vedder worked at a bar before he was officially the lead singer of Pearl Jam. And as a musician, he would come home and he'd be too tired to write music, but he could play riffs. So he'd just play the same riff over and over again. The creative form of meditation is writing poetry or stories. I've got a guy I work with who he writes stories for his daughter on the way home. You are not doing it for publication. Eddie Vedder's riffs happen to become great songs later. He's Eddie Vedder. You're not Eddie Vedder unless you are. And the twist is, you're just playing for fun. You're playing to be in the moment. You're setting the clock 15 minutes, I'm just going to play. I work with a PhD pharmacologist, and this guy is so stressed all the time, but he plays guitar 10 minutes a day. And I made him play it 10 minutes a day, and it changed the way he actually was able to experience time and space. The 8th form, do nothing. What do I mean by that? Just sit, do nothing. Wherever you are, just do nothing. Just actually let yourself be where you are. What's going to happen? Your thoughts will come and go. Do nothing. Why do I give you that opportunity? Because you can be in your office or your classroom or on the park bench outside, and you can close the door or you can walk away and you have permission to just be. Turn back to your workbook. Very quickly write down how you will be mindful based on one of those 5 forms. Here's a couple of other examples. When you are distracted, angry, that student irritates you, you feel overwhelmed, or you feel at risk. You've got to actually choose how you're going to start being mindful. Now I gave you listen, count, breathe, look, taste. Other examples are slow down, pause, walk, pinch, look away. I taught an executive to look away when she felt stressed. She closed a 9-figure deal. By the way, what you do is more important than 9-figure deals. If you can look away in a moment of stress so that the student doesn't see you yell at them, instead of being Mrs. Bruskin and ruining me for life, which I turned into a good business, you can instead be the kind of teacher that they trust forever and they actually learn how to stay on the long loop. Write down right now what you're going to do. It could be the same answer. It could be breathe, circle breathe, triangle breathe for every single one of them. But what will you do when distracted, angry, irritated, overwhelmed, or at risk? Someone call out what they're going to use when they're distracted. Breathe. Count. Listen. Notice how it's different? But you preset that memory file so you know you have that option. Are you going to remember all the time? No. But the twist is, you will then remember sometimes because you prepped. What are you going to do when you get angry? Breathe. Move. Count, right? It's different for each one. It's okay if it's different, you just have to actually pick ahead of time. Now there's one other thing that you can use that is what I'm going to teach in December, but I want to give you a sample of it, and it's your homework assignment. You have core memory files. Most important ideas that actually live in your head as either a set of flashcards or if you're nouveau as Instagram pictures. And they actually, they're stored there, they're real. And they are known as your goals or your values. Now you've heard goal setting as a thing done by businesses and by school districts. You've heard of values as the thing you can do to live your life by. They haven't been described deeply enough. It's great that we have them on the wall. It's great that they're part of school board presentations. You need ones that actually apply to you that you can switch to when you want to punch a wall. You aware of that phrase? That's what you feel when you are distracted, angry, ready to take that student out. And it's natural because they're dangerous to you evolutionarily. They are wasting your life and you can't get that time back. In that moment when you're irritated with them, that's not who they actually are. So right now, write down one goal or value that pops up in your head. We have to do much deeper work on this, but is there one thing that's most important to you in terms of a goal with students? I want everybody to be able to read. I want every student to be able to be self-regulated. I want every student to graduate. Right? Is there a goal like that? Is there a value like honesty or growing compassion in kids? My value is I want 8 billion people to know what I'm teaching you today. Sounds like a goal, right? I can't get 8 billion people. Maybe I can. But every single person I spend time with, I can invite them to be deeper brains, more regulated brains, more caring brains. So do you have a goal or a value that you could switch to and use as a mindful moment? Just remind yourself in those places of deep stress. Write it down if you have it. If not, your homework assignment for December is to come back with some of those files for me. What are goals or values that are so important to you, you will fight for them, and I will show you in the quick switching workshop how to actually use them on a regular basis. Now, a couple of you are saying, I want it now! I need you to spend 3 months actually stepping back, meditating, and turn the page to Act 3. And doing these things that you're not doing already, because remember, you're all intuitive winners. You are already leaders. You are already great educators. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. You do so much of this so well, some of it on purpose, but much of it intuitively. You're already great. I want you to be great all the time on purpose, even when you feel like crap and are in the human zoo in O'Hare Airport, absolutely exhausted. You can be that person who is the brain that is well, even when it's struggling. So in this assessment I'm about to give you, turn to the page with the 15 questions on it. Act 3 is these are the brain health activities that shrink the alarm, grow the hippocampus, grow the frontal lobes, and make you an evolutionary marvel. They're not all that complicated. I'm going to give you the assessment out loud, and I want you to either circle it if you do it regularly, the thing I'm asking you to do, underline it if you do it sometimes, leave it blank if you don't ever do it. So for question 1, do you measure stress regularly? All of you can underline it because you did it today. If you check your heart rate monitor or take your pulse regularly, that would count as well. Circle if you do it regularly, underline at least for this one. I'm giving all of you a half a point. Second question, do you practice mindfulness at least 27 minutes a day? A yoga class would count as that. But look, listen, count, breathe. You do these kind of exercises 27 minutes in total, not at the same time, though your 12 minutes of meditation counts towards it. 27 minutes. When you hear this study, I'm going to give you brain health studies that apply to all these, and you go, whoa. Because you can literally change your head. Do you meditate 12 minutes a day? It used to be 12, it's down to 10. But I keep it at 12 because I like that research better. Do you eat blueberries and other healthy foods? By the way, I didn't say to eat cheeseburgers and pizza too much. Do you, in addition to the cheeseburgers, pizza, bourbon, beer, and Ben & Jerry's, do you eat healthy foods? Circle if you vigorously exercise 20 minutes daily. Now that doesn't mean every day, because it's often, though I want you to do it every day. Do you talk to strangers? Often, sometimes, not at all. Do you work in time blocks? Wait until you hear this one. You already all do because you were in class for some time. But a time block is defined as defined chunk. Do you email sporadically or in one chunk? Do you do class prep in one chunk, or do you do it improvisationally? Can you quickly offer your core values? If it came to you easily when I asked you the question before, circle it. If it's kinda, underline it. If no way, leave it blank. Do your goals personally and professionally excite you? Different than the last question. Do they excite you? To what you're trying to work on with the kiddos, what you're trying to learn as a human being? This gets you jazzed. Which could come with a stress reaction, which is good. Not all stress is bad. Chronic stress is what beats us up. It's not the reaction that's the problem. Do you have downtime every day? Downtime is defined as doing whatever the fire truck you want. So it could be video games. It could be exercise. It could be eating a cheeseburger. But do you have that downtime to do what you want to do? This is going to get all of you. Do you take social media smartphone breaks? That means you turn it over. Turn it over. Don't check it. Like, do you take, and how long is a break? Over an hour. A couple of you are like, no! I'll explain why that's important in a second. Do you engage in life editing on a regular basis? This for your closet or garage is keep it, give it away, throw it away. It's the game of add, keep, delete for things in your life. Do you look at your life and change things radically? Do you actually get rid of the stuff that is breaking you? Do you add things that are good for you? Do you have an intentional rhythm to your daily life? Meaning you can actually know where you would be most days at the same time. I know that's true during the school year, and during the summer, does it change? That's a fun study too. Do you have daily rewards, this is my favorite one of all of them, that help you during mundane tasks? And bourbon counts, just not the bottle. Do you have things that you look forward to every day that get you through grading the 1700th paper? Are you curious about the parts of life that cause you stress? If you usually are, circle it. Sometimes underline it. If not, leave it blank. So now, total up your points. You get a point for every circle, a half a point for every underline, no points if you left it blank. And I'm going to compare you to another cohort of teachers, and you're going to be shocked, unless you are like them. I will also compare you to a cohort of scientists. No one in the history of this assessment that I've now done with tens of thousands of people has anyone ever had a 15. Do we have any 15s in the room? 14s. Oh, you now have the new high score. What's your name? What's your name? Heather. Heather, where are you from? What town? She is from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. By the way, you were the first person from the South who's ever gotten this number, because there's too many of these things that are not part of the normal routine. We'll get into that later. Because there are regional differences in terms of the way people take care of brain health. You got a 14. It's never happened before. The best one before was 13 and a half, and it was a brain scientist who literally said, I had to do all this stuff because I'm crazy. She said, if I wasn't doing all this stuff, I would not be standing in front of you. Is that true for you too? A little bit, right? So by the way, I created this assessment because I needed every single one of these. If I didn't do these things, I could not get out of bed in the morning. There were a bunch of people in that same room with the cohort of scientists who had 3. You know why? Small amygdalas, big frontal lobes genetically, given all the gifts of talent, and so they didn't have to do some of this stuff. Others of us are given a different set of talent. We have deficits in our body and brains, and these are the ways you actually recover from the deficits. Build up strength that you didn't know you had. And so suddenly we can be the kind of people who do things that our parents, when they met us, would have gone, oh no, Johnny's not going to be able to pull that off. I'm not little Johnny anymore. You all can grow. Who's at a 13? 12? 10? 11? 10? If you're above 10, I want you to circle the 1. You only have one option. It's going to be hard for you. Circle the one that it's like, oh my God, I'm just not going to do that. If it's eating blueberries, turn it to broccoli, that's fine. But you got to do the hard one because you're doing enough stuff. You got to challenge yourself this year. Who's at a 9? 8? 7? 6? So if you're a 6 or over, do the one that you're curious about. Do the one that you're like, oh, I'm interested. I've never meditated before. I'm going to give that a go. Because it's your curiosity that will drive you to actually do the activity. Who's at a 5? 4, 3, 2, 1. So no one was below a 3 in this group. When I did this with Hanscom Air Force Base's middle school, the average score was 3. Right? But the reason it was the case is 1, they'd never been introduced to this stuff. They didn't know it was important. 2, they were working with such a highly problematic set of students, moving every 2 years, families in our military, constantly exposed to parents with PTSD, and they were overwhelmed themselves. And when you get on the short loop and stay there for too long, you can't do the healthy things. What you have to recognize about each of these studies I'm about to give you the details for is they are the things that change your brain. They get you to stay on the long loop naturally, so you don't have to think about it. So you don't have to remember it. It becomes who you are. It allows you to be present, stepping back, and always in a place where you can know that you are well. The Measure Stress Regular study came from CBT research, cognitive behavioral therapy, put people in the fMRI machine. If they literally would do self-monitoring, like just noticing their emotions and naming them, or counting what their stress level was, their amygdala shrunk, frontal lobes grew. People who practice mindfulness 27 minutes a day, Harvard Medical School study, doing the John Kabat-Zinn, grandfather, godfather of mindfulness, made the mindfulness-based stress reduction program, created at UMass Worcester Medical School. He made it normal. He made it paid for by insurance. When people did 27 minutes a day on average, their amygdala shrunk. Literally, your gray matter can shrink. Does that resonate with you, Heather? Like, you can change your brain. People have said you can't change. Yes, you can. And as you guys deal with all these changes over this year, and you notice your alarm going, oh my God, I'm in a new school. Oh my God, I'm in a new classroom. Well, we've got Tom has been here that long. What are we going to do? It's your alarm. And then you can do the step back move. And then you can measure your stress. You have power to get back in the moment and switch to the goal or value and the other things we'll talk about in December. 12 minutes a day came from Amishi Jha at the University of Miami, funded by Goldie Hawn, of all people. And what they realized is that with Marines who did 12 minutes a day or more of meditation, less PTSD coming back from the battlefield, better short-term memory, better attention, and the better resilience in the face of stress in the worst environments. If it works for Marines, it'll work for you. By the way, who has a more stressful life, Marines or you? You. You. They have weapons. They are allowed to fight back. Now, when they're in war, no comparison. But the reality is, you are in a position where you are constantly dealing with constant triggers. And so you have to keep reminding yourself many days, not every day. I don't meditate every day, but most days. I do exercise every single day. Because if I don't, I can't remind myself there's no bears. When you run away from the bears, like, you realize that you're fast. But by the way, if you're with 3 people and you get chased by a bear, what's the most important thing? Run faster. Right? Don't be last. So, blueberries and healthy foods. Tufts University study. People who ate lots of the antioxidant foods would literally have better balance because the neural pathways were better and better short-term memory. People who exercise vigorously 20 minutes a day, clearer thinking. You're going to love it. All you have to do is 10 minutes of exercise. And if you're never getting off the couch, that would be walking. If you do regular exercise, that would be getting your heart rate up above 120. For 10 minutes. You can chase your children for 10 minutes, and I mean the ones in the classroom. 10 minutes cuts stress. That's all it takes. Can you spare 10 minutes? But this is really important, because as Emily's in her first year, she's like, I don't have 10 minutes, I gotta do my prep. If you don't take the 10 minutes to go walk fast on the track at the end of the day in your work clothes, they already stink, you've been chasing children all day. You don't let your brain remember that there's no bears in the way. Number 6, do you talk to strangers? University of Chicago study. The people who would pull their iPads out on the L, going back and forth to work, were miserable. People who talk to strangers, happy. You know why? Because the alarm's like, you're not scary, what's your name? Jim. So Jim looks scary right now. Jim is he's sitting and he's concentrating, he's got the straight face. He's still got the straight face, he's not laughing. But see, if I talk to Jim, my brain, as a guy who likes to make people laugh, he's laughing now. He's like, if I don't laugh, he's going to keep picking on me, and my alarm's going up, and I don't want him to talk about me. So, on the train, when you suddenly realize that someone's different than you, and they look scary, that's your alarm keeping you safe. And you talk to them, and by the way, you both like the same cheesesteak. You work out at the same gym. Suddenly your alarm function goes down. They're not a bear anymore. Studies have shown at the University of Texas that if you run into someone who's white and you're black and black if you're white, your alarm fires. Racism is not the problem. Our alarms were made to see difference. Anti-racism is the problem. You've got to be able to actually deal with when we see differences. How do I get ready for that? We have to actually be anti-racist against the parts of our bodies and our brains that are trying to keep us safe. We can be recognizing them, whole different talk, and not let them control the dialogue in our heads. Time blocks. When you work in chunks, you fight distraction. Study was done of tech workers, University of Irvine. Every time you are distracted, you lose 23.5 minutes. You're at home doing class prep, and your kiddo comes in, you lost 23.5 minutes. So you've got to work in chunks where you know you're working on the same thing so you can come back to those things quickly. Core values, acceptance and commitment therapy. Ask people to be able to step back and switch to their core values. It shrunk their alarm. Goals, that's Dr. Ford's work. It's called Target. People who have been through trauma, who could name their goals, step back and switch to their goals, their alarm shrunk. Downtime every day. You have a default mode network in your brain. It's the place of creativity. It's the place of daydreaming. If you don't give it room to just be, it was discovered at the University of Washington in St. Louis, They were doing fMRI studies with people, and they found that when they stopped asking them to do activities, a whole new part of the brain lit up. fMRIs see where blood is flowing and actually can chart them. And a whole new part of the brain lit up. It's called the default mode. We don't really understand it, but we know that you can't consolidate learning. You can't recover. You can't really build memory files if you don't make room. Social media smartphone breaks. The kids at USC were in the fMRI, and they showed a picture of their Instagram accounts, and they got a like, and another like, and then 3 likes really fast, and then 72 likes all of a sudden. And you know which part of their brain fired? The ventral tegmental area, the VTA. And you know what else that fires? When you do crack. So all of you on your smartphones, particularly those of us who are a little older, you know what happens when we do these smartphone things? Nothing. We don't know what we're looking at. This is too confusing for us. You know what happens to the kids? It's like coffee for them because they're used to it. You know what it's like for folks who are somewhere between 25 and 50? It is a fire truck and drum. Have you ever gotten a lot of Facebook messages on your birthday? You're just so excited they like me. And the next day, you know how many you get? 2. And it's someone who forgot your birthday. No one likes me anymore. That's the dopamine cycle, right? It's your brain really, really getting triggered, and you got to be really careful, because if you don't take smartphone breaks, you think that this rules your show. When I work with executives, this is the most important thing to get them to put down, because you know what's in this thing every time they get a text, a LinkedIn message, an email? Money. Because everyone who writes them is wanting their services, and then they get to make money. So this becomes a slot machine. Really dangerous. Because you know how you actually make money? You look at people in the eye and you say, hey, sorry I picked on you, and please don't write me badly after the show. Like you actually have to have a conversation with people and get to know people. Hey, did I say something you didn't like today? Tell me about that. Not, this is the place where all my life happiness comes from. Do you engage in life editing? So, studies were done with college students, and they found that if they were in control of their schedules, they felt that they did better on tests. Stay with me now. They felt better about how they did on tests, even when they scored worse. If they controlled their schedules, they said they were happier. Now, this is not good for the state testing or the government grants that are dependent on the grades you get. The twist is, if you are happier, you're going to be willing to do more work, and when you give them effective methods of learning together, it allows them to step back. Intentional rhythm. This is the study on breaks. So a study was done where people would sit at their desk for 4 hours, and they took a cognitive test at hours 0, 2, and 4. You know what they found? Sitting for 4 hours, you got stupid. Because all the blood went to the feet. It's stuck. People who got up every half an hour, same cognitive ability the whole time. Gets better than that. If every 20 minutes you were willing to look at the picture of your family, like Mav in his fighter jet in Top Gun, if you were willing to just every 20 minutes look away from your computer, look away from your students in the middle of teaching and look at something that matters to you, or sing a quick couple bars of a song, or look out the window, 20 minutes, performance stays the same. People who stayed on the same activity the whole time would get dumber. And the reason is because, have you ever looked at your keys on the table when you were looking for your keys and you couldn't see them? Because your brain, when it's used to seeing the same thing, goes, well, I don't need to concentrate on that. It ain't a bear. The reality is that your brain is trying to predict the future to keep you alive. And if you're doing an activity, the particular one that's not particularly exciting, or that is the routine, suddenly you just graded 15 A's and you do not know what you read. Daily rewards. Studies were done with people where they would swoosh sugar water, not drink Gatorade, swoosh sugar water, and get on a bike. And those who just had water got timed for how much wattage they could produce. And then the other group swished sugar water, how much wattage, how much power could they produce? The people who swished sugar water, 3% more powerful. Then they did it with people running. Water one time, a week later, sugar water. A week is not enough time to get that much faster. 5% faster on average. So you need these little rewards, the chocolate on your desk, the peppermint, something that's going to allow you to get excited. Now this is the ugly side of this. You know Tiger Woods? You remember what his rewards were when he was winning all those major championships? There's a dark side of the rewards thing, because if you get into the ugly, if you don't know what I'm talking about, ask me after. I can't talk about it in a public environment. If you have rewards that your alarm system says, I need this, and your reward system goes, this is the best, and you get into that cycle too much, instead of it being 1 cookie, it's 100. So be attentive to what the rewards are, because for some of us, our addictive personalities, our genetics mean that they won't work for you. Just be attentive to them. Lastly, are you curious about the parts of life that cause you stress? So a study was done with smokers, and if they asked, why do I smoke? University of Massachusetts at Amherst, they were more likely to quit than with Nicorette gum. Your brain is so powerful if you will do these activities. So turn to your partner now and describe, this is something you can write on the page after this. What will you do differently this year to stay on the long loop more often or get there more quickly? Which 1, 2, or 3 of these things are you going to do? And why do you think it's going to be more impactful for you? I'll give you 3 or 4 minutes to have that conversation. The final punchline for today is stress is good. It can actually become your friend. When you do these kind of things in the brain health assessment, we'll do a recovery assessment at the end of the year, and you actually make these your normal habits, your amygdala shrinks, your frontal lobes get bigger, and you can stay on the long loop longer. Stress is not something you have to be afraid of when you know what to do. When you are not stressed and you practice the different step-back techniques in regular parts of your life, you know what a perfect time to do that is? Traffic. Because you know what sucks in New England? Drivers. Oh wait, you're the ones I'm going to be driving with when we leave here today. And the reality is we don't need to get stressed and show the salute and yell at the person next to us. I was coming around a corner in Brighton, Massachusetts, and we got stuck on the corner, and this woman is going like this and this and this and this to the person in front of her. And then she looks, and I'm just looking at her. I went, hi. Because I was on the long loop, and she was on the short loop, and then me smiling at her suddenly became a step back. You know what another step back is? A half smile. Every time you do a little bit something funny, tell a little joke, it's a step back. When you know how to step back in the different situations that cause you stress, when you teach that to your parents, to your students, and you offer it to your fellow teachers, you loan a learning brain to allow us to stay long loop. Finally, the reason I taught you about your alarm so vigorously first, the reason I asked you to measure, the reason I asked you to identify your triggers, is because you can get ready for those moments. You're not going to feel good. When you are stressed, it is intentionally making us uncomfortable so we get out of the situations. But each of you is entirely capable of being the kind of people who notice the stress and step back. And when you do, you are able to do what you've done intuitively your whole life, and that's be a star. Let's be the great teacher, the curious learner, the kind of person that people trust, and transform the lives of the people around you. So you have 2 homework assignments. Step back often. That's why we gave you this little book. Secondly, I want to know what your values and goals are. Because when we go deep on building a portfolio of memory files in December that'll get you through the tough winter, that get you through the rest of life, you have to know how to step back first. We'll open with a quiz on that. And then you need to be the kind of people who started to reflect about what matters most so that you can do that in your work every single day. Thank you very much for your attention today. Questions, but I'm not going to keep all of you who don't want to stay. Isn't it nice to get a little early? And most importantly, I am available via my email, Jonathan Naming the Storm. It's at the bottom. If you have other questions about this stuff, please write me and we'll include it in future trainings and I'll be in touch with you. There's lots of free blogs out there at Huffington Post and Psychology Day about this material in addition to the book.